True fans live for their team. For those true U of A fans, there is Hughes Federal Credit Union. Show your U of A spirit and put technology and convenience at your fingertips. Hughes Federal Credit Union. Smart choice.
Welcome to Greg Hansen's Video Notebook, brought to you by Hughes Federal Credit Union. I'm Star Sports Editor Ryan Finley, here with Greg Hansen. Greg, the great Jim Harbaugh, a decade ago, referred to Stanford versus USC as manly man football.
Wow.
Not the most politically correct thing in the world, but that's exactly what we're going to get here on Saturday when the number 9 Washington Huskies visit the old stadium to take on the Arizona Wildcats. Physically, this is a team that can beat you up.
And I think all the college football people around the country, not all, but many, and in the league, are going to be quick to anoint Washington as the it team.
Yes, Oregon is boring. You don't know who Oregon's quarterback is. By the way, welcome to the Pac-12, where Oregon is boring.
Yeah.
It's weird. Stanford may be in a down year because of what their quarterback situation is. You look at Washington, Jake Browning is very good. They have a good young running back in Myles Gaskin and a defense that may have 5 or 6 NFL players on it.
You know, the Seattle Times, which has been good for years,
Of course.
said Washington's defensive front might be the best in the history of the school.
Wow.
They've had so many good defensive lines through the years.
Yeah.
But if you look at this one, they've got 4 guys that are about 320 pounds.
Wow.
60 pounds per man over the Arizona defensive line. I kind of agree that their defense is there. I mean, in the back end of it, they have 2 NFL players.
Right.
Budda Baker, Sidney Jones.
Really, really good players. But then you look at their offense too, and Greg, we were talking about this off camera. We were both in Seattle last year on Halloween night, when, keep in mind, the Huskies put a beating on Arizona, but neither of us came away in love with Jake Browning and what he did, and Gaskin was good, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare him to somebody. This is not an offense that's going to explode, but with that defense, they don't have to.
They were 7-6 last year, pretty average. And they played, I think, the worst non-conference schedule of all Power 5 teams.
Yes.
Rutgers, Portland State, and Idaho. Come on.
And all 3 of those games at home.
Yeah.
Right. Who loses even one of those games in all of Power 5 football?
So, I mean, even though Arizona's not picked to contend for anything, it would be by far the first time they've met real bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. Big time competition. Greg, it's interesting. I tire a little bit of the Washington's sleeping giant talk because it's happened so much. I mean, back Rick Neuheisel, Ty Willingham, Keith Gilbertson, Steve Sarkisian. I mean, 5 years ago, people were saying, look at Keith Price. He's a Heisman Trophy candidate, and this is the year the Huskies break through. What is the biggest difference between Chris Peterson's Huskies and Sark's old Huskies?
I think, number one, Peterson inherited some good recruiting.
Right.
And has done more with it.
Right, and Sark could recruit. Give him that. Yeah.
Peterson has been, over the last 10 years, he's been a developer.
Right.
It looks like he's developing Washington.
Right.
I mean, at Boise State, he never even slid off that top notch a peck.
Nope.
He maintained it every year. So, it wasn't a fluke there.
Right. It's interesting. They are a program, and this baffles me even now. They lost their head coach to USC and replaced him with a guy who was such a clear upgrade that we would have considered USC lucky to get Chris Peterson. It's crazy.
He knew what Seattle can be in college football.
Yep.
Because he grew up in that area.
Of course.
He knew in the 80s and the 90s, Washington was number 1 in this league.
Right.
He thinks he can restore it.
Right.
The guys they brought in, the big names, the Neuheisels and the Sarkisians, they were just guys.
Right. They were LA guys buying time until a job back in LA opened up. And that's what happened with Rick Neuheisel going back to UCLA, Sark going back to USC. I'm not sure they embraced Washington like Chris Peterson did.
I think Peterson's a coach. They were personalities. But then as soon as I say that, I remember the game here 2 years ago when he goofed up.
Yeah.
Clock management, one of the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah, at the end of the game, and was answering questions about his laminated sheet and all that stuff. So you're right. It's interesting. I would like to see Washington back. I like living in a world where the teams that are supposed to be good at football are good at football. I think it makes it interesting. I'm not saying they're back, but my goodness, they are close.
And they've got the state of Washington recruiting to themselves.
Yes.
It's basically no one else gets a shot at these guys. And that's probably 12 guys a year you can recruit.
Sure.
Arizona, ASU don't have that.
Right. Focusing on the state of Washington really briefly before we go, What in the, can I say hell? Drew says I can say hell. What in the hell is going on at Washington State?
Boy, why did Texas Tech want him gone?
Yes. You wonder.
Yeah.
You wonder. The losses to Division I FCS schools for the second year in a row. I think some very public meltdowns by Mike Leach. This is a team that is pretty good on paper, and it's just not working. It'll be interesting to see what happens this year because it could get much worse before it gets better.
I thought Washington State could have won this league this year, and obviously that's not going to happen.
Right. Fun to watch, though.
Yeah.
And it's still fun. Again, you don't have to be good to be fun to watch.
And on any given week, they can beat anybody.
Jump up and bite somebody. Absolutely. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Greg Hansen's Video Notebook. For Greg Hansen, seriously, Mike Leach, what do you think? Does he win a division before he gets out of it?
Oh, no. But they owe him so much money, they're going to have to keep him.
Oh, yeah, he'll stay forever. And you know what? He's probably as good as they can do.
Absolutely.
Fair?
Yeah.
Absolutely fair. I'm Ryan Finley. We'll see you next time.